how you finish. Hey, what's up YouTube, and welcome back to my channel. So today we are going to go over Romanian deadlifts with dumbbells. So you ladies really seem to like this video series, and I want to keep carrying it on and keep bringing exercises down for you ladies. So this time it is the Romanian deadlifts with dumbbells turn to be broken down, and I will try my best to explain the exercise and what to focus on when you are doing this movement. So without further ado, let's get into this exercise. Alright, so before we get into the deadlifts, I just want to say I'm gonna try to outspeak or out noise the AC in here. But before you do the Romanian deadlifts with the dumbbells, you have to make sure you stand with a shoulder width apart. So right around here, I actually took my shoes off. Oh, thanks. I actually took my shoes off just because, especially in deadlifts, you don't want to put all your weight in your toes. You actually want to be more grounded, especially when you have to hinge, which I'm going to explain in a few. You want to put more weight in your heels. So I'm going to try to bring it down as good as I can, but stand with the shoulder width apart. Make sure you have a good spread with your toes and kind of like grab the ground, like have a really grounded stand. You don't want to be coming off the floor when you're doing the deadlifts. A lot of women I see do the deadlifts, they lift their toes as they are going back in the hinge, which is not a good thing. So before you grab the dumbbells, make sure when you are lifting them off the floor to have a neutral back. Don't just lift the weights up like this, because I see a lot of people do that and they'll get injuries in the lower back and whatnot. So, so grab the dumbbells, make sure to have a neutral back. Also bring them to the side and kind of like squat them up, I guess. Okay, and then from here, let me just demonstrate one Romanian deadlift. It looked like this. Okay, so when you are doing the Romanian deadlifts, make sure you have a slight bend in your knees as you are hinging back. You are focusing on your hamstrings, your glutes, and it's not so much a quad-focused exercise. It's more for the hamstring and glutes, as I just mentioned, but also for your back and core as well. And I'm going to tell you more about that in just a second. But make sure on the eccentric movement on the Romanian deadlifts that you are hinging. So you bring in back your hips like this. And when you're hinging correctly, you really feel the stretch in your hamstrings as when you're going back down with resistance. Also, for those who are dealing with a little bit anterior pelvic tilt, like myself, make sure you look down when you're going with the movement and not look in the mirror trying to check your form, because when I'm looking up, that is going to provoke my anterior pelvic tilt even more, and the load is going to go to my lower back and not my hamstrings and glutes, and I'll most likely injure myself because I'm going to overwork my lower back. So, as you're going with the movement, keep your head down and have kind of a neutral spine as you're going down on the eccentric movement. A lot of people actually are looking up when they are doing the deadlifts, and that was like, let's say you're supposed to look up, then the movement are supposed to look like this. Like, this is how you finish. You don't want to do that, obviously. You can really injure yourself if you look up as you're going up on the concentric movement. Another thing you have to focus on is that you have to tuck in your rib cage, especially me, because I'm gonna kind of like remove my anterior pelvic tilt. So this is just like my normal stand. And as I'm tucking in my rib cage and engaging my core and squeezing my pelvis, everything kind of like becomes neutral and not so much like this. But it's okay to have a natural arch in your back when you're doing the Romanian deadlifts, as long as it's more natural and not forced. And another thing, the reason why this is also a really good back exercise, is a full body movement for those who haven't realized that yet. But when you are picking up the dumbbells, they are most likely more heavier than these. You are keeping your shoulders packed. So don't be having no shoulders. Your shoulders is not supposed to be down here. You have to make sure to keep your shoulders packed. So it's kind of like when you are doing rows, your back ends up looking like this, and you kind of want to hold that movement in your back, or position in your back as you are lifting the dumbbells. I think I covered everything. Let's just try to go over the movement as I am doing it. So pick up the dumbbells, tuck in rib cage, engage core, go back, 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 and here. horizontal with the floor. Anything lower than that, you're not hinging enough. So you're not bringing your hips backwards enough. I really noticed how my shoulders aren't hanging. I'm keeping my shoulders tight the entire time.
Thinking about what's mine, nothing to deny. Who's that other guy? Are you wasting my time? All these crazy fears that ends with bloody tears. Oh baby, we keep prepping.
That is it, you guys. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope that it was helpful. Let me know if you guys like these type of videos of me breaking down exercises. I probably left something out because I always do, but let me know if this was helpful and if you would like to see more videos like this. Also, before you leave, don't forget to follow me on Instagram. My Instagram name is the same as my YouTube name, Bella Rabic. And also, if you really enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And if you want to watch more videos like this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.